Today, FRC is launching a new online resource, God and Government. It's a 13-week educational series designed to inform, encourage, and equip Christians to engage in government at every level from a position of biblical strength. As we see many policy reforms coming out of this current administration, most of which we applaud, how should we determine what is good and what is beneficial for our republic, and how do we maintain a steady hand on the wheel of government? Well, joining me now to discuss why every spiritually active, governance-engaged conservative, that's a SageCon, should be a part of this is Gina Gleason. She participated actually in the training course that was filmed for this special online series, and she is the executive director of Real Impact. Gina, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, so glad to be with you, Tony. Thank you.
Now, you were actually here at the FRC Faith and Freedom Chapel when we filmed this God and Government series last year. Share with our listeners and viewers why you think this is something that other Christians need to take part in.
Well, I remember as I was there and being surrounded by the excellent set, the excellent information, and walking away feeling inspired. The whole entire program was just something that I feel that is something that I would want to share with others because it was so well executed.
Well, when you look at it, of course, you've been involved for quite some time, working with Pastor Jack and helping Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, and now working with other churches across the country. There are some basic things here that we learned that it's different than many courses. It's not just a history course. It's not just a Bible course, but it's a practical application of all the above. Were there any takeaways for you as you went through this 13 series course?
Well, as you mentioned, I've been in this circle for many, many years. And what I was surprised by was the fact that I learned a lot of new things that I didn't know before. I thought I was fairly well educated, well-rounded in my understanding of American history and our Bible and how they mesh and how they relate to one another. And I was really inspired because I learned so many new things.
I have folks, if you're interested, there's just a kind of a pre-course test you can take to kind of gauge your understanding of government. It's pretty basic. Which of the following would most closely be associated with government? The federal government in Washington, D.C., you and your family, your church, all the above. And there's several other questions. For instance, the government of the United States is best described as a socialist dictatorship, a democracy, a republic, or none of the above. And if you'd like to take the quiz, just text the word course to 67742. That's course to 67742. Now, Gina, as people engage in government, and we're seeing, encouragingly, we're seeing a lot more people wanting to engage because of what's been happening at school boards, what's been happening in our schools. More parents are getting involved. Why is it important that we understand, number one, how our government should work, and number two, having that biblical foundation of the way God would have government work? Why is that important when it comes to our engagement?
Well, because we need a foundation. There are so many spin masters out there distorting the truth, and we as believers should have a good foundation and know where our beliefs come from. And I think that this type of course is foundational for every Christian, for every citizen who really wants to understand why we're in the situation that we're in right now, because the truth has been distorted, and we need good resources to find the truth.
Gina, I want to take you back a few years to when you first got involved in government. What was the biggest hurdle for you to overcome in terms of making that first step to get involved?
Finding good, honest truth, information that I could use to speak about, because I knew what I was saying would be factual. And I remember calling people, looking online, and trying to really get the facts down about what we were trying to support and promote as Christians. And FRC was actually one of the main organizations that I relied on to get the truth about. So I've been following FRC for so many years, and the materials that you have provided to us as Christians, as believers, has been foundational in my growth.
You know, that is a big hurdle because those in government act like they're the professionals and that we don't know anything. And so there's an intimidation factor. But when we're equipped with truth, number one, that God has, He's laid out a way that government should work. And when we look at our history, that's the way our founders actually saw it. Now, not all of them were Christian, but they subscribe to what we would today call a biblical worldview, the principles of Scripture. And you see that, and we go through that in this course. We go through how those are ingrained in our nation's government. And if that's the case, it would be natural that we would have Christians that would be operating at all levels of government with that basic understanding of what God calls for in our government.
Absolutely. And it's not that we want to force people to be Christians, but we want people to understand that a biblical worldview really is the best for everyone. It really is the best way to operate as a government, because it's fair, it's just, it's right, and it's good for every believer or non-believer. And so these types of resources are critical to get into the hands of Christians.
Yeah, it takes away I guess the mystery of government, and I think it'll give folks more confidence. We've had school board members, we've had state legislators, we've had congressmen. In fact, the Speaker of the House was one of my first students years ago. I've been teaching this course for nearly 30 years, and so not to scare anyone, doesn't mean you'll have to run for government, but for a public office. But it does mean that you'll be better equipped to engage at every level of government. And I know, Gina, again, you've kind of got your finger on the pulse as you're working around the country, and we've seen some remarkable things in California. This is the time. And I think the faster we roll up our sleeves, we get equipped with the right understanding and the right knowledge and get involved, we have an opportunity to turn this country around.
Absolutely. And I've seen a big difference in the involvement of individual people wanting to stand up for what they believe, wanting to protect our country and our rights and our children, all the things that you mentioned going on in public schools. I've been very, very involved in that. And people want truth. And I can't stress how important it is to get this information out. So once it's ready for distribution, I will be sending it to all of my contacts throughout the state and nation.
All right, Gina Gleason, I want to thank you for being here and joining us today, and I want to thank you for being a part of putting that together when we filmed that course several months back.
Okay, thank you, Tony.